Hello everyone, and welcome to this audio podcast. This is an audio podcast synopsis. As part of this the audio podcast synopsis, the Pondering. This audio podcast synopsis is part of the as part of the convey, the convey and Maverick. This audio podcast is part of a Bostix and Blitzar, Bostix Blitzar, and this audio podcast as part of a as part of the specials and the ZtormLabostix production. Excuse me. In this audio podcast series, there will be a look at some works by science student our Goodwin, who had developed some writings and some work, some draft works, and in around looking at a sort of a systematic review of a particular neurological condition, and sort of present and where our Goodwin looks at a sort of a case study. Looks at a case study in around a case study in at the particular neurological condition referred to as Parkinson's. So in this audio podcast series, there will be a look at the neurological condition in around Parkinson's, and the audio podcast will look at series will have a base in around an introduction. So I look at some aims and objectives. I look at some of the investigations that are done or have been done as part of this patient case, and around this patient case with that our Goodwin looks to, and whether our Goodwin the author looked to developed in sort of developed sort of the sort of basis in around the this case study. And I look at sort of the symptomologies, I look at some of the literature, and I look at some of the pharmacology, and I look at some of the research aspects as well, and then there will be a conclusion in around this particular case study, and in around this particular case study. And as is the case with the audio podcasts under ZtormLabostix Production, this audio podcast series will also have a list of citations and references where listeners and viewers can look to attain a further information by referring to those citations and references, and which will be in on ZtormLabostix Productions social media. This audio podcast series is again works that is attributable to a science student, R. Goodwin, who is the original the original author of this works, and ZtormLabostix Production is that platform that looks to highlight and inform aspects of scientific works in context of laboratory medicine, pathology, and or blood sciences. So this audio podcast series is on the basis of works that have been developed, some initial works that have been developed by our Goodwin from a particular academic institution in the United Kingdom. So that draws this audio podcast synopsis to a close. The audio podcast series we'll look to cover sort of some of the cover sort of some of the intricate aspects in around Parkinson's, in some of the intricate aspects of Parkinson's, and so that again, do tune in and have a listening on the audio podcast series, which will look to be on social media in due time. That draws this audio podcast synopsis to a close. This audio podcast as part of the Pondering, this audio podcast as part of the Convey and Maverick, this audio podcast as part of this audio podcast synopsis as part of a Bostix Blitzar and the specials, and this audio podcast as part of a ZtormLabostix production.